Every leader is practically drowning in data these days. Adoption rates, pipeline velocity, engagement scores, the list goes on. But what if the most important metric, the one that actually governs all the others, isn't even on your dashboard? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a hidden force that quietly decides where your biggest, most important initiatives fly or, well, just fizzle out. All right, so here's how we're going to tackle this. We'll start by looking at a paradox you've probably felt in your own organization. From there, we'll pinpoint the real bottleneck that's causing all the friction. Then we'll get into why our usual instincts to fix it actually fail, and finally, we'll lay out a whole new playbook for accelerating real, lasting change.
First up, let's talk about this really frustrating contradiction that's playing out in companies everywhere. It's this feeling that everyone is incredibly busy, the wheels are spinning, but actual, meaningful progress has somehow hit a wall.
We've all been there, right? A huge change initiative gets launched. You've got the budget, you've got the new tech, the team is working crazy hours, and yet it just doesn't catch fire. It doesn't get the momentum you know it should have. So why does that happen over and over again?
Well, the numbers here are pretty brutal. A staggering 70% of change initiatives fail. And get this, the main reasons aren't technical. They're not even strategic. The research points right at employee resistance and a lack of management support. We're putting in all the activity, but we are just not getting the results.
And this isn't just about change management. Look at sales. On the surface, things might look great. Company revenues are going up. But when you peel back that layer, you see that 70% of individual sales reps are actually missing their quotas. The big machine seems to be moving forward, but the very people powering it are falling behind. It just doesn't add up.
So here's the big insight. Pushing for more activity, more calls, more meetings, more training, that's not the answer. We've been busy optimizing the wrong layer. The real problem is a hidden bottleneck that's slowing everything down before any of that activity can even be effective.
So what is this hidden bottleneck? It's not a lack of resources. It's not a lack of talent. It's all about the massive gap between someone just hearing about an idea and them truly, genuinely believing in it.
And this brings us to the core concept, time to belief. Think of it like a clock that starts ticking the second someone, an employee, a customer, anyone, first hears your new strategy. And that clock doesn't stop until they reach a moment of genuine personal conviction that, yes, this is the right path for me.
Now, this is really important to see how this journey breaks down. Going from exposure to understanding is pretty straightforward. That's just about transferring information. The real friction, the place where almost everything gets stuck, is in that leap from just understanding something intellectually to having deep personal conviction.
And this idea completely reframes how we should think about resistance. When people are pushing back, it's not because they can't do the work or they don't get the instructions. It's almost always because they are holding on to unresolved doubt. Their time to believe clock is just stuck.
And this chart shows you exactly what that doubt is made of. It's not a logical checklist, it's emotional. The biggest drivers are a fundamental mistrust in the organization, an unclear why behind the change, and just plain old fear of the unknown. We're not fighting an information gap, we're dealing with a belief deficit.
Okay, so if belief is the real bottleneck, how do we speed it up? Well, the first step is to stop accidentally slowing it down. And that means we have to understand a really counterintuitive principle about how belief is actually formed.
Our instincts as leaders often tell us to solve doubt by just piling on more stuff, more data, more features, more urgency. But what the research shows is that this usually backfires. Too much information just creates cognitive overload, and trying to manufacture urgency creates dissonance that actually erodes trust. It just doesn't feel real to people.
So here is the absolute key. You can't argue someone into belief. It doesn't work that way. Belief isn't persuaded, it's realized. And it happens fastest when there is total coherence, when the message, the actions of leaders, and the day-to-day experience of the team all line up perfectly. Any contradiction, any inconsistency just slows that clock way down.
So if coherence is the goal, how do we actually create it? Let's get practical. Here are 4 levers you can actually pull to stop trying to persuade people and start architecting the conditions for belief to happen naturally.
First up, stakes clarity. People need to understand in very real terms, not just the vague upside, but the specific consequences. What amazing things become possible if we do this? And just as importantly, what painful problems are going to keep getting worse if we do nothing?
Second, lived proof. And this is so crucial. We're not talking about slick testimonials or case studies here.
We're talking about your team seeing their leaders and their peers actually using the new tool, living the new process, demonstrating their own conviction through their daily actions.
Third, you have to acknowledge the friction. Let's be real, every change comes with a cost. There's a learning curve, maybe a temporary dip in productivity. By openly talking about those trade-offs, you're signaling that you get it, that you understand their reality, and that builds a huge amount of trust. Ignoring it just makes people suspicious.
And finally, behavioral on-ramps. Don't ask for a giant leap of faith. Instead, create small, safe, low-risk ways for people to just try the new thing. Let them experience a small win for themselves. Let them validate its value on their own terms. Conviction gets built one small, successful step at a time.
Okay, so let's connect this whole idea of time to belief directly back to the hard metrics, the numbers that every business is already tracking. Because this isn't some soft metric, it is the input that drives all of your outputs.
Just think about it for a second. What is a long sales cycle? It's a long time to belief for a customer. What's slow tech adoption? It's a long time to belief for your users. Change fatigue, low trust, high turnover, these are all just symptoms of an organization that's failing to build belief efficiently. And this just shows you the real-world cost. I mean, look at AI adoption. Everybody's using it, right? But over 80% of firms see zero financial impact. Why? Because they have adoption without belief. People are clicking the buttons, but they don't yet believe it will fundamentally change how they work. And that's the massive gap between activity and real achievement.
So this leaves us with the one question that every leader should be taking back to their team. Not, how do we move faster, but where are we with our own actions, unintentionally making it harder for people to believe? Is it our mixed messages, our overly complex solutions, or is it because we're projecting certainty when we should be acknowledging the nuance?
Because in the end, that is the fundamental shift you have to make. The organizations that are going to win aren't the ones with the most logical arguments or the fanciest slide decks. They're the ones that understand their main job is to design an environment where belief can form quickly, coherently, and authentically. That is the ultimate growth metric.